series Biography comes the uncut story of 3 women who broke into a man's world and made the bikini a crime-fighting tool. Charlie's Angels.
They were glamorous detectives who used their sex appeal to bag the bad guys and win legions of fans.
Every time the ratings dipped a little, Aaron would write a scene where I was in a bikini.
The show became a cultural phenomenon and a cult classic. Critics panned it, but the audience made the Angels into superstars.
And all of a sudden you're splashed all over rag sheets and your life isn't your own and things are said that aren't true.
Charlie's Angels, Girls with Guns. Next. The year was 1975. Jerry Ford was in the White House. The women's movement was taking to the streets. Disco was hot, and so were fashions. In Hollywood, 2 producers developed a novel idea for a series. And to everyone's surprise, including their own, it would soon take the nation by storm. The TV landscape of the early 70s was filled with hard-edged cop shows like Streets of San Francisco and Hawaii Five-0. It was a man's world, not a female lead in sight.
Television was going through a period of kind of ash can drama. Everything was very serious, very gritty, very real.
Len Goldberg and Aaron Spelling, partners in Spelling Goldberg Productions, thought it was high time for television to lighten up a bit.
We would say, you don't see heads turning to look at real women. They turn to look at pretty women. And we always tried to be a little ahead of the curve. And what's missing is, how about just a show about really glamorous girls?
So Len and Aaron came up with a series idea. They called it The Alley Cats. And over breakfast at the Beverly Hills Hotel, they pitched it to top ABC executives Barry Diller and Michael Eisner.
They presented the idea of, let's do a detective show with 3 diverse, attractive women in the leading roles. They'd have an imaginary boss. And it'll be sexy, humorous, and hopefully we'll try to make it believable.
And there was this long pause, and Barry said, it's the worst idea I've ever heard. And we forgot about it.
But the Alley Cats sprang back to life a few months later when they hired a team of writers to create a script. And this time, ABC liked it enough to greenlight a pilot. Now they had to cast their 3 detectives.
I think Aaron Spelling's gift is to put together casts really well. He casts new, fresh, young faces. He's got a real eye for people that audiences like.
The first choice was Kate Jackson, fresh off her success on another Spelling Goldberg series, The Rookies. On that show, Kate had a supporting role as the wife of one of the 3 rookie cops. But she got the most fan mail. Kate prided herself on her acting experience and her dramatic skills.
Well, Kate used to say, I'm the smart one. And then she would sometimes say, also the one that can act. She represented the more intelligent, thoughtful one.
Could it be a takeover strategy?
It's possible.
Is there any way we could find out who the buyer is?
The network insisted on a new name for the show, so the Alley Cats became Angels, and Kate was Angel number 1, Sabrina Duncan. The next halo to fill was the angel named Jill Munroe. If Sabrina was smart, Jill would be gorgeous and an athlete.
Jill Munroe was the California girl. She was, you know, the quintessential California girl. Malibu, blonde hair, beach.
They found the perfect Jill Munroe in a young actress named Farrah Fawcett Majors. She was from Texas, not Malibu, but when she arrived in Hollywood, casting directors took notice.
She just looked, I mean, she was fantastic. I mean, when Farrah would turn and look at you and smile, that was it.
The original plan called for a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead. But they dropped that color scheme when they found Jacqueline Smith.
My career started in New York as a dancer. And a television agent by the name of Harry Abrams saw me dancing and came up and said, you know, would you like to do commercials?
There are lots of shampoos to choose from. But the fact is, almost any shampoo you can buy is mostly detergent.
It sort of introduced me to film, and in 60 seconds you have to tell a whole story and make something come alive. So it sort of opened up the film world to me.
That's why I choose Gold Formula Breck.
After moving to Los Angeles, Jacqueline had landed a few minor TV roles. Then she was called in to audition as the third angel, sophisticated and glamorous Kelly Garrett.
Really, I was called, you know, as a million other actresses to go in and read for Charlie's Angels. Cold readings were never my thing. I was a little nervous reading, and it wasn't a particularly good reading.
But it was obviously good enough. Jacqueline would be angel number 3. Charlie's 3 angels were lined up. Now it was time to cast Charlie Townsend, their boss.
Good morning, angels.
Morning, Charlie.
Only the voice of Charlie would be heard, but that voice proved hard to find. Finally, Aaron Spelling called an old friend, John Forsythe.
He's the most elegant man and a great voice. And he used to come in once every 2 weeks and do 2 episodes in the morning. He would come in like an old-fashioned movie star, beautifully dressed with a sport coat and a sweater or a shirt and tie or an ascot, and come in and do it. Then he would have lunch at the commissary, and then he would go to the racetrack. But that was the best job in television.
I'd like to place a call to Los Angeles, California.
Forsythe didn't want to be billed in the show's credits, adding another note of mystery to the role. And that glimpse of Charlie's back in every episode, it was actually a stand-in.
And Charlie, he had sex at the end, or whatever. I don't know what he did after the cut, but he did something.
I can still pick up a piece of luggage on my own.
Besides their mysterious boss, the Angels needed someone to act as a go-between with Charlie. David Doyle would get the role of John Bosley.
You don't understand. Things are starting to heat up.
We just wanted someone who would remind you of your uncle, your favorite uncle. And we kept looking for that quality, and we thought David had it. And you would never think there was anything going on between him and the girls other than he was their favorite uncle, and they could rely on him and count on him.
Like Forsythe, Doyle was a veteran actor.
Sooner or later, you're going to try a white owl. And when you do, we got you.
And total professional, came to work prepared all the time. He used to say he had the second best job in television, next to John Forsythe.
Charlie's Angels was cast and ready to roll, but how would the audience react? When the Charlie's Angels pilot aired as a TV movie on March 21st, 1976, the Angels proved they could pull in an audience.
When the show debuted, it exploded. Just exploded on the scene. The 3 leading ladies were just magic together.
And the show got like a 48 share. And Aaron and I looked at each other and we said, there's something here. It was, and the network couldn't believe it either. I mean, it was a giant rating for this.
But ABC questioned a basic concept. How could 3 gorgeous women fight crime without more male help?
Well, actually, in the pilot, the network wanted us to have another character, another guy.
The second man, played by David Ogden Stiers, was there to lend an extra hand if the girls got into trouble.
So we had David Doyle, and we had this other character, and the 3 girls, and they were falling all over each other. When we went to series, we said we want to drop the guy, and the network said to us, well, who's going to save the girls at the end? And we said, they're going to save themselves. And we used the example of Policewoman, because they said, well, look at Policewoman.
That series starred Angie Dickinson as a cop with a male partner played by Earl Holliman.
Angie was doing Policewoman at the same time. And, but she had to call Earl Holliman to come to the rescue. Come, Mr. Holliman, I need you. And he would come to the rescue.
Well, what if you only had a choice of one person? Would you have Earl Holliman or Angie Dickinson? You can't have both. They said, well, Angie Dickinson. I said, we got 3. We don't need it. And 3 more Earl Hollimans.
So David Ogden Stiers was let go. He went on to star as Major Charles Winchester in MASH. The network had another concern with the scripts. There seemed to be more emphasis on cheesecake than smart detective work.
Hi.
The network said to us when we started delivering our scripts, this isn't good enough. They have to be like Columbo. They have to be more mysteries, more, they used to say, peeling the onion.
I mean, if I lived in a building with a manager built like you, I'd really want to get to know him. Hold that pose!
They put forth what we thought the audience wanted to see, which were the angels. Their clothes, their cars, the fun they had, and the action.
But producing an action show on a tight budget was a real challenge.
The schedule was 7 days. I mean, not 7.5 days, not 7.25 days, not 7 days and an hour. It was 7 days. If you didn't come in 7 days, you didn't work there anymore.
One place they didn't skimp was wardrobe. The angels would wear the latest fashions. In every scene, they managed to look stylish and sexy. And with a wardrobe budget of $25,000 a week, designer Nolan Miller had a lot to work with.
There were no other shows that really concentrated on the look of the star, not episodical television, and certainly they did not spend that kind of money.
Nolan Miller's beautiful gowns and classic outfits helped create the show's unique look.
I love Nolan, and I think Nolan is the epitome of glamour. I think his fashions are reminiscent of maybe the 40s and Hollywood, and you don't get more glamorous than that.
Aaron usually was very complimentary to me about whatever they were wearing. And one day he was in the projection room looking at the dailies, and he said, "What the hell is Jacqueline Smith doing wearing a fur coat?" And I said, "Well, why?" He said, "She's supposed to be a policewoman, Nolan." And I said, "But it's not an expensive fur coat." He said, "I don't care. She doesn't look like a policewoman."
But one angel didn't buy into the show's fashion sense.
It's very difficult to do a show when someone just isn't into clothes. They don't care about the clothes, as Kate Jackson was. All she ever wanted to wear was a black turtleneck sweater and some jeans. She just didn't care about clothes.
Kate, and I say this with love, never wanted to do costume fittings. If she could have stood behind the bar and worn a turtleneck and the same pants, she would have been happy. Whereas Farrah and I, we loved fashion and we loved the clothes. We'd go and look for what we wanted to wear.
They would go shopping on Rodeo Drive on Saturday, and Monday morning I would hear Jacqueline, "I have a list of things that I just love." Farrah wanted to be sexier and more avant-garde. When the Paris runway started showing chiffon blouses, things with no bra under them, everything, Farrah was the first person that wanted to get rid of the bra.
We were in a time frame where bralessness was next to godliness, if you were a lady. They were not wearing bras.
There was not anything directed at make them as sexy as you can. I mean, how can they not look sexy? I mean, they loved showing flesh.
While the angels were losing their bras, the ABC censors were losing their cool.
The censors were always checking the wardrobe, and I don't know what happened that they started relaxing that kind of thing, because the first time that the girls started going without their bras, the public nicknamed the show with the jiggles.
Well, all I know is it's really tough on my legs. Those two.
Charlie was pegged as Jiggle TV only due to the fact that the women weren't usually any bras. And of course, when you're running after bad guys, you jiggle. That's what happens.
The thrust of the press was this was a sexy, overly sexy, trying to think of the word now, whether it was giggly or wiggly or...
Do you mean jiggle? Yeah, well, actually, NBC, somebody at NBC coined that phrase, and the critics picked it up.
It's actually the first time we began to realize that all that press coverage was going to enhance the tune into the show.
Jiggle TV or not, Charlie's Angels was now a certified hit, and the three actresses were stars. But one angel would become a cultural icon.
At the time, she had a very famous swimsuit poster. To this date, it's the largest selling poster of all time. It sold over 8 million copies. That poster is what catapulted Farrah to the superstar status.
That poster, God almighty, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing that poster for sale in some window or another.
You know, people say sex is written in her hair, and, you know, there's always a controversy about her nipples, and there's all that, you know, but you look at it, it's all American. It's like apple pie. That's Farrah Fawcett, you know, and she just, at that moment, captured what we were at the time in the 70s and became the icon. Very much like Marilyn Monroe.
She owned it. She owned the screen. She owned everybody watching it. She just had that magic about her. You know, people always say, what makes a star? I don't know what makes a star, but you know it when you see it.
Like many stars, Farrah had her own line of products, including, what else? Farrah Fawcett shampoo.
I just took a shower with Farrah Fawcett.
Shampoo, Joe. He just took a shower with Farrah Fawcett shampoo. And his hair smells clean and fresh, and it has great body.
Great body. Her hair became, you know, water cooler conversation, as well as other anatomy parts.
And that hair, she had it before she got to Charlie's Angels.
Once the show started, after about 3 or 4 episodes, she went to the producer and said, I think I want to change it. And the producer knew that that was a look that was becoming popular. And he said, oh, no, could you just have it just a little bit longer?
She had gotten to such a level that women would go into beauty parlors and say, do me a Farrah. They all wanted that haircut.
Who knows how many women burn their hair trying to get that look.
Well, I just remember what an incredible craze it turned into. Everybody, if they didn't have blonde hair and they wore a wig, the whole world was running around in a Farrah wig.
Number 4, the Foxy!
Farrah helped catapult the show into the ratings stratosphere, but its real success was based on the ensemble and the show's unique and unlikely concept.
It sounded absurd on the face of it, and in execution it was kind of absurd, but it was so campy and fun and had such energy that I think it really captured everybody's imagination. It was a show that was a kind of phenomenon in the making. It was there to explode.
There's 3 angels. When that logo went on, when the beginning of that show went on, with the music and the whole business, they had you. If you were just a guy who wanted to look at broads, or a woman who came out of the kitchen, or 5 kids who were sitting on the floor and they didn't want to do any more homework, and they wanted to look at naked ladies or near naked ladies. How can you get anything better?
In just 1 season, Charlie's Angels had become a TV phenomenon, but soon that success would be threatened.
And there on the news it said, Farrah Fawcett is leaving Charlie's Angels. And I sat up in bed and said, what?
Did you know that in the 5 years of the show, none of the Angels ever had an affair? Producer Aaron Spelling says Charlie's Angels was absolutely Puritan.
Charlie's Angels was a smash, and the Angels were superstars. But fame always comes at a price. Being famous took some getting used to.
The attention was unbelievable. The girls would go out shopping on the weekend, which they did often and well, and they were mobbed.
It's like what rock stars go through, I guess. You know, you go through the back doors, you go through kitchens, your life isn't your own anymore, and all of a sudden you're splashed all over rag sheets.
But there were perks, like visits from the Hollywood elite. Even Britain's Prince Charles paid a visit to the set.
He didn't just want to meet us. He was very inquisitive about the lighting and the sets, and, you know, he really wanted to learn. We signed a picture for his dad, all of us together.
He posed for the photographers and said, now you know why they call them Charlie's Angels.
Another aristocratic fan got a little carried away.
One day, Aaron's assistant, Brett Garwood, called me and said, the man from the Middle East would like to buy Charlie's Angels. He mentioned who he was, some sultan or something. And I said, okay. I gave him the name of our distributor for international. And he said, no, we want to buy Charlie's Angels. And we had this who's on first conversation. Yes, we'll call this man. And no. What he wanted to do, they wanted to buy the girls. I said, well, then I better give you other names, you know. But that's how crazy it got.
Charlie's Angels may have been a huge hit, but it was criticized for its bad acting, mediocre writing, and over-the-top style.
I think Charlie's Angels, in a sense, brought out the worst in TV critics. It made them appear to be snobs and above the material that they were writing about. It was almost as if they didn't get the joke, and so they dismissed it as junk, as fluff.
God. You know, they joke about the criticism. The critics, their favorite line was, the biggest item on the budget is hairspray. So what? It really didn't have any relevance. It was Charlie's Angels. If you suspended your disbelief, you could enjoy Charlie's Angels on a relatively meaningful level. As Aaron said, always keep the blonde in the middle.
Not surprisingly, many women took issue with the show's emphasis on the Angels' feminine charms.
You mind if I look you over?
Oh, no. One owner, low mileage, clean.
It was sold as is, little lady. You got a shape that'll sell tickets.
What hurt the most was feminists criticized it. I don't understand. I mean, we're doing the wrong thing by having the only 3 women leading in an action-adventure series. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about.
I thought we were paving the way for women to, you know, have a voice in television and to be playing something other than, you know, a nurse or a wife.
As far as the producers were concerned, the critics were missing the point.
All right! We did want to make a statement that said women could be beautiful and smart and strong and lovable. They could be everything. We didn't set out to change the world. What we had in mind was a 33 share, basically. That's what we had in mind.
Okay, so they weren't doing Shakespeare. And in fact, there was no getting around the series' escapist quality. Occasionally, the show was downright campy.
When Aaron and I were selling the show to Freddie Silverman, who was head of programming, what would some of the upcoming episodes be? And we said, well, there's going to be one where they have to go into this women's prison to find out something that's going bad there.
Can you imagine a writer going, oh, okay, let's put the Angels in prison, okay, and, then we'll make them prostitutes, okay, and make them work in the potato field. Oh, yeah, that sounds really good. And someone said, okay, let's do it. You know, you're like, what?
And eventually they're handcuffed together and they're running through the swamps, soaking wet, and it's called Angels in Chains, our highest rated episode ever, and one that the network chose to repeat. They would play it every week if you would allow them to.
It was a crazy episode, but everyone loves and remembers that episode. They're like getting sprayed in their towels, and they're walking around in their towels, and you know, they're getting massages and towels all over the place, Angels and towels. So it could have been an episode. Oh, okay. Interesting.
By the spring of 1977, Charlie's Angels was a hit show and a pop culture phenomenon. But everything would soon be placed in jeopardy when Aaron Spelling and Len Goldberg received some shocking news.
I was home watching television on a Monday night, watching the news, and there on the news it said, Farrah Fawcett is leaving Charlie's Angels. And I sat up in bed and said, what?
And he called, and he said, hold the fort, we may lose Farrah. And just slow down, don't do any more.
Farrah was just 1 year into her 5-year contract, but she wanted out. She was determined to make movies. While negotiations began with Farrah and her lawyers, the press had a field day.
When Farrah was going to leave, do you think Farrah's going to leave? Is Farrah going to come back? Is Farrah? People were involved with the show.
It was practically headlines in the papers that the studio was having a problem with Farrah, and she wanted to leave the show, and they even were in court over it.
She said, I want to be in movies. Aaron and I went to Columbia Pictures and came back with the following deal for her. They would develop 3 scripts for her with her input. Aaron and I would have nothing to do with it, and she just said, no, I'm leaving the show.
I think if you're really unhappy on something, then, you know, you have to analyze that and maybe, because if you're negative, you're bringing it down for everybody else.
Now the producers and the network were worried. Could Charlie's Angels survive without Farrah?
Well, Farrah was so popular that I think they worried about the impact it would have on the show.
And Aaron and I were very concerned because although the other angels were terrific, Farrah had seemed to step forward of the 3 angels and had gotten the most press, the most attention, the most publicity. And so when you hear after 1 year that she's leaving, you're very concerned.
Nervous about their show's future, Spelling Goldberg Productions agreed to release Farrah from her contract.
People to this day think that Farrah stayed for 3 years and Kate and Jackie stayed for 5 years. That's their memory of it. When I would tell the press, when they would talk, you know, for the movie, they would talk about the series, Farrah was only there for 1 year. They would say to me, no, you're wrong. I would go, okay, I guess I'm wrong. But because the memory of Charlie's Angels is so strong that they imagined that they stayed much longer than they did.
Now Len and Aaron were desperate to find a new angel. They turned first to a young actress who specialized in playing victims.
It was the opening of an episode, and a girl walking down a dark alley turns and screams and then gets raped or mugged or killed. And that was Cheryl Stoppelmore.
My poor mother calls me and says, are you going to do any shows where you don't get killed or raped or anything in the first 5 minutes of the show? I said, I hope so. That's what I'm working toward.
Cheryl had grown up in South Dakota and sang her way into show business. Her first big break was singing on the cartoon series Josie and the Pussycats.
I thought, doesn't get any better than this. This is great. I'm here. I've arrived. And then I was like a 7-year overnight success.
Next came commercials and small TV roles, marriage to studio executive David Ladd, and a name change.
And I must say that my husband, David Ladd, at the time was after me all the time to not use Stoppelmore because it wasn't a great marquee kind of name.
So Cheryl Jean Stoppelmore became Cheryl Ladd. Aaron Spelling was reminded of Cheryl while dining out one evening with Nolan Miller.
David Ladd and Cheryl came by the table to say hello. And Cheryl, you just took one look at her. She was so beautiful.
And she had a smile like Farrah's. She could melt an iceberg in 20 paces in about 3 seconds.
And Aaron said, are you coming to the studio tomorrow? We are picking a new angel.
And I said no, thank you, because I didn't think that was the kind of show I wanted to do. And I certainly was, like everyone else, just sort of blown away by the phenomena of Farrah and all of that.
Cheryl Ladd walked away from the part.
After thinking about it briefly, I just really didn't think that's what I wanted to do.
What would it take to get Cheryl to change her mind? In just one season, Charlie's Angels had captured the hearts of the TV audience, but its success was threatened by Farrah's departure. And Cheryl Ladd, who could be the perfect replacement, wasn't interested.
And I guess they saw hundreds of girls, and he called me back and he said, just come and talk to me. I want to know what your concerns are. So I told him, first of all, being in this position after working so hard and studying acting for 7 years, and I don't see myself in this show. And he said, well, what would make you comfortable? I said, if I could be a funny person and not have to take it too seriously, and particularly not have to try to be Farrah, which I thought was death for anyone that attempted it.
Maybe we will work with her, and maybe we won't.
So we created this Chris Munroe character who was really the rookie. Because America really does fight for the underdog. They cheer for you, especially if you try really hard and you're funny. They always want you to win.
Aaron's idea about her being Farrah's sister inside the show was brilliant. Because the audience loved Farrah. They really did. I mean, what else would have ingratiated her? All she had to do was come in and be good.
It was official. Cheryl Ladd would play the role of Chris Munroe, Jill's little sister.
You got it! I can't believe it!
But Cheryl still saw it as a very risky career move.
There was Jacqueline and Kate and David Doyle and everyone on the crew who had a hit show that didn't know if their hit show was going to have any more life. Thought if they just really hated me and the show went off the air because I came on it, I'd never work again.
When shooting began for the season premiere, the press, the cast, and the producers held their breath.
It was overwhelming in the pressure of it. So I just went on the set, and at that time, Farrah was Farrah Fawcett Major, so I wore a T-shirt that said Farrah Fawcett Minor. And I got a good laugh, and everybody realized that it just broke the tension right away.
I think they felt let down by Farrah at the time. That made it easy. Everybody was welcoming to her.
David Doyle just took me under his wing, and he just immediately said, "You're going to be great, kid, you know. Come on, let's have some fun." And he just let me know that he was on my side.
But with the fun would come a lot of hard work, long hours, and stress.
But we all had a pact, really, that no matter what happened, that we were a team, that we were the Three Musketeers, and nobody was going to say anything about anybody that could remotely be misconstrued. We were all holding our breath for the first show to air.
On September 14th, 1977, the season premiere aired, introducing Chris Monroe. Set in Hawaii, the episode surpassed everyone's expectations, raising the series ratings to new heights.
Creating this Chris character was a constant. I was trying to come up with funny ideas and things.
The rookie angel, you know, one who would make mistakes and is not always perfect.
I hope I created lots of little Chris moments where she became very human and very real and funny.
Who could hate Jill Munroe's little sister? You know, hating Farrah Fawcett's sister is would be un-American, basically.
Cheryl Ladd's Chris was funny and charming, but she had another asset that the producers would make the most of.
I remember when we did Angels in Hawaii, and she came up out of the water in her bikini onto the boat. Case closed.
I was one of the first people on television that wore a kind of French cut, high cut, I guess they call them string bikinis now.
You know, it was a glamorous show. I wore a bikini when I was on a beach or at a swimming pool. Kate never put on a bikini. I don't even know if she put on a bathing suit.
They didn't want to just be like bare skin all the time. They wanted some reality to this show. I mean, it was stretching it as it was. But there were certain times when it was reasonable that they were in a bikini or something.
But the real reason for all the bikinis was obvious.
Jacqueline says this all the time. She said that every time the ratings dipped a little, Aaron would write a scene where I was in a bikini. And I finally went in and I said, look, I'm somebody's mother. This is getting a little humiliating. If I'm going to wear a bikini, I have to be somewhere near water, okay? Because I'm not just going to run around in a bikini for no apparent reason. It was just getting stupid. So I decided that I would choose the bikini that I knew would not pass standards and practices. They actually had those things in those days. And the whole time we rehearsed, I had a robe on. And when it was time to do the scene, I took the robe off and everybody goes, Cheryl, what are you doing? Aaron wants a bikini and this is the one I'm wearing. And I said, oh, no, we can't film that. And I said, no, he wants a bikini. This is the one I'm wearing. I made my point, and the next day I got a little note and he said, tell the little rebel I got the message and we will never do this again, will we?
Over the next 2 seasons, Charlie's Angels remained one of the most popular shows on television, a mainstay of the ABC schedule, climbing to number 4 in the Nielsen ratings. As for Cheryl, she was riding the wave of celebrity that came with the role, even relaunching her singing career with a top 40 hit single. But by the spring of 1979, another angel was ready to take flight.
Kate, I think, finally just said, I've done it, and now I want to move on with my career.
Kate may have reached her limit when the demands of shooting Charlie's Angels forced her to turn down the lead in Kramer vs. Kramer. That part went to Meryl Streep, who won an Oscar.
But at least she gave us warning, and we talked it through, and so that was fine.
Hot, young, up-and-coming actresses lined up to try out as the new Angel. Connie Selica, Barbara Bach, Shari Belafonte, and Michelle Pfeiffer. Among the candidates, a young model and actress named Shelley Hack. Shelley was already familiar from magazine covers and the Charlie perfume ads. The look and style of this Charlie girl, not her acting ability, would be the deciding factors.
Shelley came to the studio, and everyone in wardrobe fell in love with her. And I begged Aaron, please hire her. She's so chic and she's so great, and no matter what she wears, we put her in a white shirt and something, and she pushed the sleeves up and turned up the collar, and she just looked fantastic. And we pleaded and begged, and Aaron finally decided, okay.
So Shelley was in, and Charlie's Angels would go on. But how would the rest of the trio and the audience take to this new angel? By the fall of 1979, another new angel was trying to find her place in the cast. Shelley Hack's character, Tiffany Wells, came in with her own distinctive style.
I remember when we chose Shelley Hack, we thought she gave us an Eastern Connecticut kind of breeding. Could be a little different. And she tried hard and she was good.
The show's producers also decided that the Angels' wardrobe should be updated to reflect the latest fashions. The glam look was in. High-heeled shoes, satin tops, lots of rouge, and very tight spandex pants. But even with a glamorous look and numerous wardrobe changes, the new Angel was in for a rough flight. The critics complained that she couldn't act.
I think they got a little overly confident that it would turn out all right. They didn't really hone who that character should be. They were not perhaps as diligent with it as they should have been. They didn't help her enough because she was just sort of someone that just was fitted into scripts already written, and they hadn't really focused on who Tiffany should be and what she should add to the group. I think that poor Shelley suffered from that, and that was a shame, but I certainly don't think it was all Shelley's fault.
After only one season as Tiffany, Shelley Hack was out.
It just didn't seem to be clicking. It's that magic didn't happen. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe we pulled the trigger too fast. Maybe it wasn't Shelley Hack, but we just thought we had to move on.
It was yet another shock for the show's fans and for the Angels themselves.
Well, we were really upset about it, Jacqueline and I both, about her going. And we let that be voiced, that we were losing viewers and that they needed to do something else. It was just a terrible time, and certainly not a good time for Shelley.
To save their crime-fighting trio, the producers turned to an actress named Tanya Roberts. She was a former dance instructor and model who had been in a string of TV pilots, usually wearing a bikini.
Tanya was just a wild card, and on every level. And she was absolutely the most gorgeous thing you had ever seen in a bathing suit. So she got to do a lot of the bikini stuff. I got to wear many fewer bikinis than when Tanya came, which was nice for me.
She'd be a different kind of angel. Her character, Julie Rogers, was street smart, brassy, and of course, drop-dead gorgeous.
Very sexy. Very sexy. Did I say very sexy? She was a hoot. I mean, she really was a hoot. She was, again, trying to find someone who could work as an angel, who you'd believe is an angel, but who was totally different than by now our legion of angels. And so she had this kind of free-spirited, one could say, quality to her.
But in spite of her spirited and sexy performance, Tanya's career as an angel was short-lived. The Angels' 5th season would be their last. Everybody knew that the show was getting a little stale.
And I think I had wrung about every good idea I could come up with for Chris Monroe out of myself at that point. It seemed like we were rehashing a lot of the old tricks, and I don't know. It was, you know when it's time. So actually, Jacqueline and I were ready for it to be over.
We just thought it had run its course. We thought 5 years was enough. That was what we had contracted the original people for.
I signed a contract for 5 years, and I was going to fulfill it. I, in all honesty, was ready to move on. After the 5 years, you want to do different things.
Although it's always said, because you're a family for 5 years, and you really, bond with people you work with for that length of time and those hours, and that was hard.
On June 24th, 1981, The final episode of Charlie's Angels aired on ABC, but the series would find a new life in syndication and in the hearts of a new generation of fans.
Imagine, it went on the air in 1976, and they're still clamoring for it, which is great. It's a testimony to something.
And fans still have their favorite angels.
Cheryl Ladd, who played Chris Monroe. 1977 to 1981. I've never strayed from her. I never will.
You have staunch Kelly Garrett fans. You have staunch Jill Munroe fans, and you just do. And everybody related to one of us a little more than the other.
No. I mean, because it's like children. If you have, who's your favorite child? You know, we love them all for different reasons.
I mean, they remember the clothes, and they remember the goofy scripts, and, oh, and you did this, and you wrestled an alligator, and all these silly things. But they didn't tune in because that's all that they cared about it. I think they related to each of us.
20 years after Charlie's Angels went off the air, a new trio of angels took on the big screen. Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore, who also co-produced the movie along with Len Goldberg. More than a nostalgia trip, they wanted their movie to be an update of the original, capturing the same spirit.
The one thing that hasn't changed is the idea that these three girls love each other and get along with each other, and that they're friends. Because when we were casting for the third angel, Drew and Cameron made a point. They said, we want someone that we can be friends with, not someone who's going to steal our boyfriend. And that said it really well. That's what we want. And I thought, yeah, that's what the audience wants too.
Not only movie screens, but computer screens feature Charlie's Angels now, drawing old fans and new ones. Clearly, the show's creators and the Angels were doing something right.
I had people all over the world emailing me. These girls and boys are like 13 and 14 years old, and now are watching it, on reruns. And it amazes me even today now with, the new movie, how empowering, Charlie's Angels still is today.
If somebody had said, will they be interested 20 years later, I would say absolutely not. But there was something winning about the concept of Charlie's Angels. And so it put you out there in a different light and in a different way.
In some way, they became us. We became a reflection of particularly young women, of who they wanted to be and who they visualized themselves being. And I think that's why it's still popular.
Well, my martini is ready. Aloha, angels.
Aloha.
Aloha.
These girls used to be cops. Now they're Charlie's Angels.
Good morning, angels.
Money, murder, and mystery, they're in it up to their private eyes. They're Charlie's Angels.
Hello?
3, 2, 1. Get some action with the most beautiful private eyes in the world. The girls who do it for Charlie.
Work, work, work.
Another case, Charlie? I can hardly wait.
A beautiful solution to any crime. Charlie's Angels.